Hey everyone, my name is TSM Achieved. I'm the TSM Rainbow Six Siege Captain, and welcome to my Buck Guide. So as Buck, your main job as a soft destruction is to open up as much destruction as possible, but you're also entry fragging, so you're going to be the first guy in the building, first guy in the bomb site, to be establishing your dominance across the map. But whenever you get to site, you really want to make sure you're opening up a lot of beneficial angles for plant situations, post-plant situations. That way you can get the bomb down and also guard the bomb whenever it is down. Usually you're going to want to pick Buck on maps where you're going to do a lot of vertical gameplay. Since he's equipped with a shotgun, he can transition very fast between a shotgun and a gun. Shotgun also gives him a bit of an edge in terms of like Sledge or Zofia when it comes to close range engagements. You can just whip out the shotgun and kill someone. But you're really going to want to play him on maps like Club, Cons, and Coast. They all have really great areas to open holes from above or below. Personally, I would avoid playing Buck on Villa because the floor is kind of wonky when you're going to buck the floor. So personally, I like to use Sledge on that map. But at the end of the day, Buck, Sledge, and Zofia are all pretty interchangeable. So it's really down to your playstyle and who you're most comfortable with. Certain operators will be better on certain sites though. Sledge, for an example, is much better on Villa, like I said. It's just easier to make the floor holes. They're all pretty interchangeable. Personally, since I really play fast and aggressive, I like to play Buck because you can switch to a shotgun, you can make a really fast rotate and then instantly fly through it. Or also when you're doing vertical gameplay, it's a lot faster to make the Buck holes rather than Sledgehammer or Breach Charge. You don't need any specific lineup when you're picking Buck. Buck can pretty much fit into any operator, any team composition. The only really thing that you're going to make sure that you're bringing with Buck is operators like Thatcher or any other breacher like Habana or Thermite. Someone who has flashes to help burn the ADSs.
Yeah, burn the ADS. Yeah, burn the ADS. Oh, bro, you are...
That way you can fully use your nades and actually utilize them for destroying Evil Eyes or maybe even getting a kill or two or destroying a shield or a bulletproof.
Oh no! One Skybridge Jaeger.
Okay, Skybridge. I think he's down. He's down. You better not take me.
Okay, so going through the loadout of Buck, make sure you got a cool headgear and uniform arm. That's very important. But also when you're going into the loadout, I highly recommend the C8. I would not take the DMR unless you're really good with the DMR. But personally with this game being, one shot to the head kills them instantly, you most of the time don't want to go with the DMR. You want to go with something a bit more of a fire rate. Pistol, you only have one option, the MK1. Definitely take grenades. If you take flashbangs, you're trolling. But on the C8, personally, I run the ACOG just for longer range engagements. Every now and then I'll switch to a holo, but like 99% of the time, definitely run the ACOG just for longer engagements, easier to hit heads. The barrel attachment, I go with the muzzle brake. The flash hider is a pretty popular attachment for a lot of people as well. The extended barrel, it give it too much recoil. It's not really worth it. The gun already does 40 damage as it is. Suppressor is not very good, and some people run comp, but I like to go with the muzzle brake. I think the recoil is very manageable with that. Also, laser sights. Some people run laser sights. It makes the spread of the shotgun a lot closer, and then your hip fire is obviously better. I personally don't prefer the laser. I prefer no laser.
I'm gonna get a drone into it.
During the drone phase, it's very important to figure out two things. You want to know where the enemy site is and what operators you're going against. That way you can play accordingly. For an example, if they have a Pulse or a Valkyrie or someone with a C4 and you think they'll be playing below site with a C4, that's very important to know at the beginning of the round. That way you can adapt to it towards the later end of the round. Generally, in the drone phase, you can usually tell where an enemy is or what side they're defending by just looking around and seeing what reinforcements, what walls are reinforcement. Usually you don't even have to spot the bomb site. If you know the maps and you know the bomb sites, you can just see that they're reinforcing certain walls and that it indicates to you that they're probably at that site. You also want to try to figure out who you're up against. But a very important thing is to try to keep your drone alive, because drones are kind of like extra lives. Although it's really important to get this information, you also don't want you to lose your drone because drones are extremely important. So after the drone phase and you get into the action phase, you're going to want to use your drones. You're going to want to roam clear the enemies. You're going to want to work together, clear the enemies. It's also very important that, like, especially as Buck, since you are kind of like an entry fragger, you're definitely going to want to be following up your teammates' drones. You're going to want to be right behind them, clearing out the enemies and pinching with your other teammates. That way you can get rid of all the roamers and then go towards site.
Going in between. Dead. That's him.
Nice.
Good job.
Another key thing to keep in mind is when you are, whether it's droning or entry clearing as Buck, you're going to want to look out for any like trap operators. So during the drone phase, if you spot like a Legion, a Capcan, an Ella, or a Frost, for an example, you're going to want to be very careful that you're dodging these traps, or you're looking down, you're shooting them, vice versa. Also, keep in mind that as like Buck, Sledge, or Zofia, with the soft breach destruction that you have, if you see a Capcan on a door, but you don't want to risk like going in and shooting it because that guy will have an angle on you, you can also breach a soft wall right next to it and just go through that way. But also, once again, keep in mind for like Legion mines, because Legion mines are kind of invisible, and those are extremely hard to find sometimes.
So I was going to show you what I meant with the skeleton key and the shotgun. Whenever you're making these buck holes, you want to make sure you're right over the holes. That way it gets to spread closer together and the holes are made. If you stand further apart, like back here, for instance, you're not going to fully penetrate the floor. So you want to make sure you're very close to these holes. That way you're able to make clear holes through the floor, or vice versa with walls. If you stand further back, it sometimes will make them, but it's not very reliable. Same thing happens when you're getting close to walls. You want to make sure you're, you know, not too far but not too close. If you're further away, it's going to take multiple shotgun shells to bust through. Or maybe it won't even bust through at all. So another way to do it is, if you want to catch your enemy by surprise, you want to make sure you get really close to the wall, you instantly buck through, and then you can run through the hole right away. You can make a small rotational and run through right away.
So when you're playing as Buck, you're really going to want to utilize your grenades. Once again, using your grenades to get kills or even get rid of bulletproof cams, maestros, evil eyes, any other utility is also extremely good. When you're cooking a grenade, it has on the center of your screen, there will be a cooking symbol, and the faster it gets, the closer it will get to blowing up. So you're going to want to use these grenades to clear people out of corners, out of power spots, for an example, or get rid of utility.
Mark dead.
So when you're bucking above floors, you're gonna want to be extremely cautious for people with C4s. Usually when you buck a hole, people will throw a C4 there, or people will peek it. So when you're making these holes, you want to be extremely careful for C4s and people peeking the holes. You can tell if a C4 has been placed due to the sound. There's a slight beeping sound it will make. Sometimes it can be very hard to hear. If you're having trouble hearing these sound cues, you might want to invest into a better headset. I use a Logitech Pro X if you're looking for suggestions. It's pretty comfortable, the sound is amazing, and it hasn't let me down. So the main operators, gadgets, and ability you're going to be having trouble with are Jaegers, Bandits, Cade's Electric Claw, and Reinforced Walls. You can't get rid of a lot of this stuff on your own, so you're going to want to use your teammates and coordinate to get rid of these. For an example, ADSs, you're going to want your Thatcher or Flashbangs to burn the ADS, or if you can shoot it, most of the time you can't. Electric Claws and Bandits, those you can actually use your nades on to get rid of. You just got to make sure they can't place new ones. And obviously, Reinforced Walls, you're not going to be able to deal with that. Those are for your hard breachers. You can only deal with soft walls. So since you're entry fragging and you're making a lot of destruction holes, you're probably not going to be alive most of the time towards the end of the game. But if you are, you can always still help your team get into sight. You can run in sight first. You can entry frag for them. Sometimes, every now and then, you can even try to plant a bomb. But for the most part, just have like your thermite or your support player back you up when going into sight. Say, hey, follow me up, get my trade. But most of the time, if you're playing Buck correctly, you'll probably be dead by the time the round's pretty much over or towards the end. Unless your team's having a phenomenal round, you're probably going to get C4'd. Someone's probably going to kill you through your holes, or you're just going to lose a gunfight and die. So most of the time, I wouldn't count on being alive. But there is chances where you probably will be. And just knowing how to play to that is going to be very important.